Welcome to Cryptic Accounts, a podcast by paranoid people for paranoid people. I'm your host for the week, Dennis Cheney, joined as always by Patrick Ryan. And this week's episode is Project Bluebeam. Remember, it's a lie. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
It's the holidays, man. So I'm legally festive.
Yes, last show of the year.
It is the last show of the year, but we haven't reached our 52 weeks yet. I feel like I'm on the Cryptic Accounts calendar.
Yeah.
So I don't count this as our last show for the year for another 12 weeks or so.
Yeah. We'll do our own special weird New Year's.
Right. Yeah, kind of like the Aztec calendar or whatever we were railing about the other couple of weeks.
We're on the Cryptic Accounts calendar.
I think when we get to 52, that's when the aliens come.
I mean, that would make for a good episode 52.
Oh, yeah, if it happened like in the middle of a... Have you ever heard of Project Bluebeam?
I have not.
Oh, I was praying for that. Okay. Well, we're doing a primer on it tonight.
Okay.
And just keep an open mind because this goes against... Well, I don't know. It melts into some stuff we have covered, but other stuff it kind of seeks to disprove a little bit.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we've done that with other episodes where we kind of do the flip side of things.
Right, yeah. So if our listeners have not heard of this, I guess we'll just dive right in if you're ready. No announcements, no birthdays, no weddings, nothing to call out or celebrate?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, the dominant theme in the Project Bluebeam independent literature is a claim that Bluebeam is a hoax masterminded by NASA's controllers during the prior century, possibly as early as the 1960s. The goal of this deceptive project aims to use the fear of alien invasion to fool the world population into accepting the need for a one world government and a one world military force managed by a globalist corrupt institution such as the United Nations.
Ooh.
Coming out hot.
I didn't know this was a thing, but this is something we've talked about on our own for a while.
It is. And I've kind of heard of this, but Bluebeam is one of those that I think hit its heyday like 20 or 30 years ago, and you cannot find a lot of stuff on it.
Really?
I had to get my research off like an academic website and then branch off from there. But and there's kind of a reason for this that we'll get into, I think. But this is one of those where it's hard to find publicly available information.
Interesting.
So, as we've discussed in prior episodes, a false flag is a fake terror event. The actors' modus operandi and motives behind these stunts are not accurately reported in the mainstream media. The media may knowingly publish false details. They may be fed phony information by a corrupt entity such as a government authority.
Yeah, we talked about that some on the show for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is basically the ultimate false flag. It would be a worldwide false flag. It's common to see references to President Reagan's speech before the United Nations, dated September 21st, 1987, in Bluebeam literature. And we've gone through this, but I will, for those who are not read into Reagan's speech to the United Nations, he said, "In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside, universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our people than war and the threat of war?" And that was 1987. That's one of those kind of like the George Bush New World Order thing that just gets thrown around all the time as like proof that there's aliens.
Well, I mean, it's a weird thing for a president to say, for sure.
It is a weird musing, although, like, I don't know. Of all the presidents, Reagan would be high on the list of someone to just muse about that, just
Mm,
randomly, just
possible.
randomly mention aliens. Well, so basically, this is like an academic primer into like what this theory is, and it goes on to like mention a tons of like news articles and stuff. And we're going to get into it. But what I found most interesting was there's a description of the three biggest scholars or theorists or whatever you want to call them, who have ever gotten into Project Bluebeam. And oddly enough, they all died of mysterious circumstances.
Hmm. Well, it's been fun doing this show, Dennis. It's been a good
Hmm.
time. Um,
Yeah, we're out, man. I mean, if
yeah.
anything's going to get us killed, it's going to be. So we'll start with Rick Clay.
Okay.
Rick Clay was an independent researcher and blogger who wrote about Project Bluebeam around 2007 or 2008. Clay connects Project Bluebeam to the mainstreaming of questionable environmental problems, such as global warming, and I will add the rise in earthquakes, and a massive orchestrated financial crash. This sounds a lot like December of 2019. So this was written right before COVID, by the way.
Okay.
Clay died in mysterious circumstances in 2008, age 25. He died a few years after giving his public interview on Project Blu-ray or
Mm.
Project Bluebeam. um, the next one was Phil Schneider. We're going back in time here. He was a Project Bluebeam researcher and public speaking lecturer who died in mysterious circumstances in January 17th, 1996, at the age of 48. Philip claimed to be an ex-governmental civil engineer who built covert, deep underground military bases,
Hmm.
codenamed DUMB, D-U-M-B, inside of America. He also stated that he was among three people who survived an unreported incident in 1979 between alien greys and American military forces at Dulce Underground Base, where he was employed. Have you ever heard about that? That's
I
going to
have
be a show.
I haven't heard about him. I've heard about Dulce Bays. I think we've talked about it before.
Apparently, there was a gunfight there.
Um,
Apparently, one of the aliens got out and he like lasered a dude, and then they shot him with a machine gun.
hmm.
So he
Oh,
claims to have witnessed that. Now, here's our main subject.
okay.
Serge Monast was an independent Canadian journalist who spoke publicly and wrote about his ostensible knowledge of Project Bluebeam for around a decade prior to his death. Sergey published a book titled NASA's Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam, in 1994. He then died of a heart attack on December 5th, 1996, after spending one night in jail at the age of 51.
Hmm. Wonder what he
And
do we know what he went to jail for?
yeah, so Sergey was an interesting character. Number one, he spoke French, which is, besides all the people dying, is like a year or two after getting into this, is a big reason why it's hard to find stuff on Bluebeam, because a lot of it's in French.
Okay.
So he was kind of a well-known journalist. Now he was in trouble with law enforcement. Um, he's in trouble with law enforcement because he basically, I don't know, he was kind of a rebel. He started to get more and more into these conspiracies.
Hmm.
And then as he kind of built sources and got into it, he started getting really paranoid about the government. So I believe he was actually in jail because he was homeschooling his kids. So keep in mind, this is Canada. So
Oh, okay.
he was homeschooling his kids, and I think they basically found him some form of unfit, and he basically disobeyed the authorities to like send them to school, is what I believe I read.
Okay.
And so they put him in jail for one night, then he died.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, he was kind of an interesting dude. He wrote like 20 books. It's kind of crazy. And it seemed like he was a legit journalist until he went underground, with all this
Yeah.
stuff. So, and this guy seems to be if this is true, this guy seems to be the originator who like uncovered all this through journalism. So did he lose his mind? Did he have sources? I don't know. But the essence of Sergey's thesis centers around what he calls the 4 steps of Bluebeam deception, discussed in his book. Sergey's text places this covert project under a broader context. He claims that this scheme underpins the plan to install a new world order, one world government that is staunchly anti Christian, and he labels the regime as satanic.
Okay.
So, Serge Monast and most Bluebeam commentators theorize that the United Nations aims to usher in the one world government Nazi order.
Whoa.
To most people, the UN is a benign institution that promotes global peace and a reduction of corruption and poverty. But if so, the discredited UN has failed on every indicator. Those who follow geopolitics speculate that the UN Blue Helmet Brigade, its fake peacekeeping corps, has a plan to place Americans into Walmart converted FEMA camps. People may be enslaved, executed, and divorced from their children in these camps.
I have heard about the idea of Walmart camps before.
Yes, I've heard that too. When did Walmart become a part of this? I've heard about camps for a long time, FEMA camps.
Mm,
It just seems like at some point in the last few years it became Walmart.
yeah, it's in the last few years. I want to say in the last 5 for sure. And it feels like I heard about like several that like they practiced essentially like setting that up that way or moving into that or whatever.
Yeah, that would actually make sense. I think Walmart's like one of the biggest landowners. Um, old Walt would be down with this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was a WikiLeak thing. Maybe there was some mention of Walmart's or something like that. But
Yeah, I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what it was, but I remember like hearing about it in the news and then all the theories that came out behind it. But it was like a recognized thing that they were like talking about having this available.
right,
Like as far as
yeah,
FEMA using Walmart or whatever.
yeah, and I think it's legit too. Like, I mean, the idea that it's going to be part of like a concentration camp thing might be more fringe, but like I think they've basically admitted that they have a setup for. I even think they were talking about at the beginning of COVID at one point
Yeah.
that there are
Maybe that's
places.
maybe that's where I'm thinking. I mean, it's been such a long year with COVID, like that feels like forever ago. So that might be what I think was several years ago that I'm hearing about, honestly.
Right. So with that introduction, I found a address by Sergey that has been translated into English where he lays it out. And this was given 2 years before his death, right around the time he published his book.
Okay.
He says, our task is to make the people realize that the coming of the New World Order is not a dream, neither a paranoid thought. It is a real satanic undergoing project. To abolish all Christian traditional religions in order to replace them by a one world religion based on the cult of man. To abolish all national identity and national pride in order to establish a world identity and world pride. To abolish the family as known today in order to replace it by individuals all working for the glory of the one world government. And this is the one world government like we've all heard of. I cut out some sections. To keep in mind, this is 1994. So basically his view, and you'll find this interesting, Patrick. So he said one thing that has to be in place is digital currency using the internet. Um,
And I've been saying that for a couple of years. Like that's where we're going. Like it's
and I
heading that
don't
direction, and I think that is the end game. Like eventually, this does lead to the one world currency.
right, and I think China's testing it.
Yes, China's already. They gave out I forget how many millions of dollars in a lottery to different citizens randomly, basically, and then they've had different tests where they like set up like whole provinces or like cities in the province or whatever where like the stores are all set up to take this digital currency. They're saying they're not planning on rolling it out yet, but that's I mean, that's kind of how they do things, is they say they're not going to do it, and then they just do it.
Yeah, right.
Like, personally,
Um,
I think they're going to start moving to it in the next year or so.
yeah, and I think we're speeding it up too. I mean, obviously Bitcoin's going through the roof. Mark Zuckerberg's out here again talking about Libra. So,
Yeah,
and
now
it
that
would
the
make,
environment's a little bit more friendly for it, I think.
yeah, and also I think the Trump administration, someone from the Treasury came out and was talking about some regulations.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they're trying to push through some really weird, non-helpful stuff right now.
yeah,
As
and it,
far as not like controlling your own crypto, essentially. Like, they're going to make people basically register their wallets that they're using, which
yeah,
basically just exposes what you have to the world. It doesn't do anything for crime, because you still have to do know your customer stuff when you go to an exchange to try and sell it.
right.
So it's really pointless. It's not solving anything. It's not as bad as they were talking about. And I could go into a whole thing about it, but
Was it just control basically?
I mean, they're saying it's for money laundering, but it really doesn't accomplish that based on what you're doing with it, really.
Right.
Like, if you're trying to money launder, the only place you really need to get caught is when you're trying to take it out into fiat dollars, whatever your national currency is or whatever. Like, they're trying
Okay.
to trace people that are staying in it, essentially. Like, it's going to do more harm than good for the privacy aspect of it, because you're going to be able
Yeah.
to like track what people have, and then if we have data leaks, you're going to know where all these people live. It's dangerous, really.
Yeah, that actually does sound. That'd be like everyone's bank account being public.
Basically, except it's much more dangerous in the sense that you don't have that federal backing of insurance if somebody does come take it from you. You're your own
Right.
bank.
Right.
So we'll
Okie
see what
doke.
happens with that.
Well,
Like,
that's Oh,
it's
go
not a
ahead.
done deal yet, but they're trying to move it forward, and it's weird how they're trying to wedge it in at the end of this presidency.
Yeah, it is. So that's check one. And basically, I mean, this is the whole new world order we've heard about forever. It's going to be especially anti-Christian. It has this weird tie-in to what's called the Age of Aquarius, um, which I think we've all heard the song, but I didn't
That's the
realize
only
that
thing I could think of.
apparently this is a real thing. So, and this is a bit of a side note, but I found this super interesting because I went on a tangent while I was studying this.
Wait, is
So,
that a song about the Antichrist, really?
it's a song about the age of Aquarius. It's the
Okay.
only way I could describe it. So,
Okay.
uh, so okay, so we have what's called a vernal equinox, which is like when the center of the earth. You know how we have an equinox each year, like around Christmas we have an equinox where we get the shortest day of the year, and then around
Mm-hmm.
Easter we get an equinox. Okay, so when that is aligned with different aspects of the horoscope, you say you're like in that age. And these
Okay.
ages last around 2,100 years.
Okay.
So right now we're in Pisces,
Okay.
which is the fish. And so that started, oddly enough, around the time of Jesus.
Okay.
And then the next one's going to be Aquarius, the water bringer. And
All right.
weirdly enough, apparently um, the one before Jesus, there was some timeline with the Bible that was super interesting. Like around the time of Abraham, it was the ram. Around the time of Moses, it was like Taurus, the
Hmm.
bull, and then it became the fish with Jesus, and then apparently it's going to be. But anyway, I don't really believe in astrology, but so we're coming into this though. So this is like, believe in astrology or not, like scholars have kind of debated, like, did this start last century? Is it going to start this century? All we know is it's around 2,000 years after Christ. So that's essentially going to be our new age religion, is what they're going to try to usher in. They're going to say, oh, this is the age of Aquarius now, and we have a new religion. So
All
the
right.
now so Sergey says that the now famous NASA Bluebeam project has 4 steps. You're going to love this. The first step concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup of earthquakes at certain precise locations of the planet, where supposedly new discoveries will suddenly explain for them the wrong meaning of all the major religions' basic doctrines. This classification used to make the population believe that all religious doctrines have been misunderstood and misinterpreted have already started with the field of psychological preparation for populations. And so he's really into this earthquake thing, but it's really not about the earthquakes. I will mention we have covered in the weather control episode that we do have the ability to create earthquakes.
Yeah.
And we also know we do it accidentally with fracking all the time. But basically, this is any time that there's an archaeological discovery that kind of goes against religion. So like they include in this those little hobbit people that they discovered in New Zealand, which the Bluebeam people think was a fraud. This probably would go into a lot of like the race mixing stuff we talked about with like Neanderthals and Denisovans and stuff. Like their idea is this is all to just break down our basis of like the foundation of like our origins and stuff like that.
Okay.
To like pave the way. And also in this category, he includes things like 2001 Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Time, like media stuff, Star Trek, etc., that makes you just start thinking different.
Well, yeah, it's like, yeah, if you were wanting people to get ready for it, just inundating the media with it kind of makes people, it'll make them more comfortable with it when it actually happens, because whatever these beings look like, we've probably seen something similar in some sort of science fiction movie or TV show.
Right. So that'll become like the new religion or the new canon, like of our origins and
Yeah.
things. Like either that movie Prometheus about how we were seeded by aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, there's that cult you were talking about there's that organization you were talking about a couple weeks ago out in the desert. And in this also, oddly enough, they include the general, how a few years ago it started to become very religion versus science.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone had to like choose a side, which you've never really had to do before until like Richard Dawkins and stuff like that. You could kind of just believe in science, believe in religion.
Yeah.
So what the purpose of this, what they want to do is shake up the beliefs of all Christians on the planet. And to do that, they need some false proof, supposedly from the past and from the far past, that will, quote, prove that men and women, that their religions are false. So that's the first step. Arguably, we're kind of there. Church attendance is down, etc.
Yeah.
The second step deals with the gigantic space show with three-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projections of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving different images according to the predominating religion or national religious faith. This new God's image will be talking in all languages. And this is where the Bluebeam of the Bluebeam theory comes in. The space show, the holographic imaging will be used in a simulation of the ending, in which you are given scenes which focus on fulfillment of that which is a desire. The results of this deliberately staged false Christ will be for the implementation of a new universal religion. Enough tricks will be foisted on us to hook us into the lie. The project is the ability to take up a whole bunch of people, as in a rapture type situation, and whisk the whole bunch into Never Never Land. So at first I was like, okay, this kind of seems like a contradiction, because why would you like knock down a religion and then have Jesus show up? So I guess the theory basically is they're going to use this technology to show every area their own thing, right? And we'll get into that. And then basically they'll all announce that it's all one thing.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that will be how they usher in the Antichrist, essentially.
Yes.
Because I mean, you already kind of see it now in like the last few years, especially. There's this like theory that Jesus is some sort of an alien hybrid, actually.
Oh wow, I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've been seeing that pop up in different places here, really this year, especially since we've been researching all this stuff. But yeah, it kind of seems like the pieces are kind of coming together for an explanation as to what happens to all these people during the rapture. You're going to need an explanation.
Yes, and so this is going to be that, and I'm assuming maybe they use UFOs or something to suck people up. I don't know, but or they'll put them in FEMA camps and say they disappeared. So there will be, he believed, a calculated resistance to the New World religion, which will basically start a holy war, which sounds like the Book of Revelations.
Mhm.
The Bluebeam project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of all the prophecies of old, as nature and even as that which took place 2,000 years ago. In principle, it will make use of the sky as a movie screen, a space-based laser generating satellite projects, simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and in every dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order and is a large-scale seduction.
As you've been talking about this whole hologram thing, all I can think about is Skynet.
Mm, that's funny. Dude, I think about Skynet all the time.
And this big like line of satellites. But I mean, at this point, we have so many satellites. You could potentially do this
Yeah.
very easily. We know we have like hologram technology. We've seen it, with music and stuff, with bringing artists back on stage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that was convincing 10, 15 years ago or whenever that started.
Yeah, some of that's crazy convincing. I almost bought a ticket to see gosh. One of them came to Kansas City. It was
Michael
like,
Jackson.
no, I wouldn't know. But
But
it was no. It was Roy Orbison.
that was not what I was expecting you to say.
So, not a single area of the world will be excluded, with computer animation and sound effects appearing to come from the depths of space. Astonished followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned Messiah in spectacularly convincing lifelike realness. Then the projection of the Christ or Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc., will merge into one after explanation of the mysteries, prophecies, and revelation will have been disclosed. This one God will in fact be the Antichrist, who will explain the various scriptures have been misunderstood, that the religions of all are responsible for turning brother against brother, nation against nation, and therefore the world's religions should be abolished to make way for the golden age, the new age of the one world religion, representing that one God, Antichrist, in this instance, they see before them.
Whew.
And so I actually didn't know how advanced our holograms is, so I did some research on that. And we might be getting there. So in 2018, the International Business Times reported that the U.S. military's next laser weapon projects creepy voices in a floating hologram.
What?
The Pentagon, this is 2 years ago, is working on the next laser weapon for the U.S. military, and it's intended to creep out the enemy rather than hurt or maim them. The idea is to have a floating ball of plasma that creates sounds with just the interaction of two beams of laser light out of thin air. The video of this, and I've included a video in the show notes. The video of this emerging technology shows a small ball of plasma suspended in a rotating disc where the projection is focused. This weapon is being built so that the Army has a system that can mimic any voice or sound. A system like this could be useful in psychological operations, which we know we did in Vietnam, or even to make announcements, notes a report by Defense One. This project is part of the Military Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Program, JNLWD. It works by altering the atoms in air to create sound. It's a speaking ball of light.
It's hard to even imagine, honestly.
Yeah, and guess what color it is?
Green.
It was blue. So
yeah. I should have known that.
Oh no,
that was set up. I should have known that.
So called laser-induced plasma effect, the military hopes to get it to speak using human sounds in about 3 years. So that would be 2021, baby.
In a few weeks, maybe.
If they don't already have it, this is just their typical. The project is composed of two major parts. A femtosecond laser that fires off bursts of high precise lasers for about 10 to 15 seconds. This rips up molecules from the air and creates a ball of plasma. Plasma, sometimes called the fourth state of matter, is a field of electrified gas that is highly responsive to electromagnetic fields. Once the plasma is formed, a nano laser beam hits it. This second beam is reportedly tuned to a narrow range of wavelengths. Scientists then manipulate the plasma field, creating sound. As of now, the system is still in early stages, and it sounds like a broken ham radio. Scientists are now able to create sound, heat, and light from lasers. That just blows me away. You can create sound from lasers. And soon we could have a full range of sound and voices, as well as lifelike projections. The report says that it is possible to project heat, light, and sound to about a kilometer away using just a 5-inch lens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lasers are crazy though. If you think of like a laser you buy at like Best Buy, you could like point it at a plane and it actually hits it.
Yeah.
This could help the military send voice messages to soldiers far away. An aircraft can also simulate gunfire on a region it flies over using this technology. The possibilities are virtually endless, and this tech, paired with a capable AI, can probably bring out the Eye of Sauron meets HAL nightmares to life.
Oh yeah, let's give this technology to computers that can think on their own. We are heading for Terminator, like we really are.
I know. Why do we just insist on it? We're gonna destroy ourselves. We thought nukes would do it. Now we're creating. So I included a picture for you to look at. It's not the best picture. I just took it from part of the video. But yeah, it's a little blue light. It's a little blue plasma ball. Sounds like a ham radio 2 years ago, but by now it's probably talking and floating around. Yeah, can you imagine how freaky that would be for a little like plasma ball to come along and speak to you? That would be indistinguishable from like an angel or something.
Well, I wonder now if like the orbs that people see and have been seeing, like I wonder if this is that.
Yeah,
like
if we have had it for a while.
Yeah. At least the light part. I mean, there's no sound to it, but the light technology was probably there as far as just making a ball of plasma with lasers.
Maybe. Yeah, like maybe your was it Minnesota police officer?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a common thing, seeing these lights.
That did a lot more to him though. Like he lost time and stuff. Like, so who knows? It could be based on something similar though. Maybe they got that idea
maybe they
from
have
aliens that were using that in Minnesota in the 70s.
Yeah, I think that was too advanced for even the 60s, so that had to be something extraterrestrial. But so back to our main man here. Now these techniques push us towards the third step of the NASA Bluebeam project that goes along with the telepathic electronical two-way communication, where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach the people of the Earth by the inside of their brain, making each one to believe that his own God is talking to each one from within his own soul.
All right, that is freaky.
Yeah, and this one, oddly enough, I think probably is easier to pull off than the first one.
Yeah.
If you're unaware, did you hear about those, how our ambassadors, or not our ambassadors, but how those diplomats in Cuba were attacked using radio waves? So apparently for a while, there's been some Cold War trickery with radio waves and stuff like that beam and it can basically microwave your brain.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of permanently disabled diplomats that had to be taken out of Cuba.
Well, it's good to know that if we resist any of this, they're going to have really effective ways to deal with us.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to the most terrifying weapon yet, although microwaving your brain from a mile away is terrifying.
Well, good job, Dennis. It's been a few weeks since you stressed me out.
Yeah, resistance will be futile.
Yeah, it sounded like it.
So this is 1994, remember, when little Sergei's talking, but he says, I don't know why I insulted him like that. When Sergei's talking, some of this equipment is now operational within the CIA and FBI. Would any government, corporation, or psychiatrist willfully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. Government agencies and the corporations that work with them towards the New World Order are prepared to promote anything that will help them to achieve their objectives of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and make them fear for their safety, They will allow you to implement draconian law enforcement practices, disarm them, and keep extensive records on them. And they only have to tell you, well, that's an all in order to protect you, of course. And secondly, it promotes the decay of the current form of democratic political system and leads societies to search for alternatives to their current political methodology. The mind control operation and technology include a transmitter which broadcasts at the frequency of the human nervous system. This also makes me wonder if there isn't something to 5G or whatever people are talking about. Which system is manufactured by the Laurel Electro-Optical Systems in Pasadena, California. Laurel, a major defense contractor, had previously conducted research on directed energy weapons for Lieutenant General Leonard Perez of the U.S. Air Force, who was searching for a weapon to implant messages into the mind of the enemy and to urge his own troops into superhuman deeds of valor.
And again, this is the 90s that this is being written.
Early to mid 90s.
So he's talking about stuff they were doing almost 30 years ago, if not 30 plus years ago.
Right.
Cool. I'm sure this hasn't gone any further then.
Oh, yeah, and it keeps getting pushed back. So, in his book, The Body Electric, the Nobel Prize nominee Robert Becker described a series of experiments conducted in the early 1960s by Ohlenfree, where this phenomenon was first demonstrated, as well as later experiments in 1973 at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, who personally underwent tests in which he proves he could hear and understand spoken words delivered to him in an echo-free isolation chamber via pulse microwave audiogram. An analog of the word sound vibration beamed into his brain. Becker then goes on to state, such a device has obvious application and covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with a voice or deliver undetectable instruction. These effects were all studied at length by the CIA on September 21st, 1977, in testimony before the Senate Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who directed the MK Ultra program at that time, was forced to discuss aspects of the CIA's research. And I think that's Project Mockingbird hearings.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Or it was during that time period where they were like, for once, we were trying to get to the bottom of this intelligence agency stuff.
Yeah. Luckily, we got all that sorted out and everything's cool now. So it's nice to reminisce on that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's all fixed. So I Googled this a little bit and I found interesting. I found a 1974 article. I could only find this snippet from the American Psychologist titled, it was from volume 30, March 1975 of the Journal of the American Psychological Association. So this is legit. And the title of the article is Microwave Voice to Skull Success Announced in 1974. And it discussed that by radiating themselves with these voice modulated microwaves, Sharp and Grove were readily able to hear, identify, and distinguish among 9 words. This is 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, you might find this interesting, but this was done in Kansas City, Missouri. And
Really?
at the Psychiatry Institute of the Kansas University Medical Center. And at the end of the article, they give the address if you want to write about it. So in 1974, the American Psychological Association announced that we could beam 9 words into people's heads.
Cool.
So you tell me if we could do more 45 years later.
Yeah. I'm going to go with yeah, probably.
And in fact, I found an article from Wired that was shared on science.org. It's like a physics magazine from 2008. And they announced that a recent unclassified report from the Pentagon from 1998 has revealed an investigation into using laser beams for a few intriguing potential methods of non-lethal torture. Some of the applications the report investigated included putting voices in people's heads, using lasers to trigger uncontrolled neuron firing and slowly heating the human body to the point of feverish confusion.
Oh my God.
All from hundreds of meters away.
Oh no.
A U.S. citizen requested access to the document entitled Bioeffect of Selected Non-Lethal Weapons under the Freedom of Information Act a little over a year ago. There is no evidence that any of the technologies mentioned in the 10-year-old report have been developed since the time that it was written. Like you would know.
Yeah.
The report predicts that communicating at longer distances would be possible with larger equipment, while shorter range signals could be generated with portable equipment. Putting voices in people's heads could cause what the report called psychologically devastating effects. The technology might even allow for communicating with an individual hostage surrounded by captors, although this would require extreme directional specificity. Now, what I imagine is if you had a big enough version of this, you could pull off the Bluebeam thing.
Yeah.
Because you could just basically hit everyone, but it would sound like it's coming from in your head.
Mhm.
There's also I didn't include it in here, but I might as well mention it. There's also a military project that's well known called the Voice of God, which apparently we might have used in Iraq. And it's essentially like another version of this, but instead of doing it inside your head, it's just like the loudest sound cannon ever. It can like shoot sound to like miles and miles and miles and miles away. I think it was something like 300 miles. And it would be loud enough that it would sound like it could like drive a person nuts, or it would sound like God was speaking, because it would just be so loud it'd sound like it was coming from kind of everywhere at once. And I promised you, horrifying. Apparently the voice of God is powerful enough that at short distance it could melt you with sound.
Wow.
So you could just like melt the guy with a voice.
Whew. Well,
So
that would be terrifying.
So this dude died in '96, but it seemed like in the next 10 years, basically everything he talked about looks like it's scientifically possible. I don't know who his sources were. This is, like I said, this is a very hard topic to find like information on.
Mhm.
But I do find it odd that everyone thought all this stuff was super nuts, and then it just starts coming out that we could actually do it. It makes me feel like he did have good sources that at least knew about the technology.
Well, if we've seen anything from like WikiLeaks and the CIA, like they're not great at keeping their secrets, really.
No. And they would probably exploit a guy like this who's kind of on the fringe to kind of get some stuff out there.
That's possible too.
So at this point, now we're going to get into the weird part. Now we're going to end with the weird. Now we're going to end with what I think is the weirdest part. So at this point, we're going to degrade Christianity, and then lasers are going to project all the religious leaders in the sky, and then the voice of God is going to beam directly in your head and tell you it's all one world religion, and we'll bring in the Antichrist. Step 4.
I'm going to go grab a tinfoil hat real quick, if that's cool.
Yeah, for real. Maybe those tinfoil hat people were right.
I think there might be something to that.
I know. I need some sort of metal helmet. Yeah. And I just need it for safety. But
you do get a lot of head injuries. It's a good idea.
I do. So now the final step. The 4th step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation by electronic means. And this 4th step contains 3 separate steps, but we'll do them quickly. Number 1 is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to strike down on each major city of the Earth in order to push each major nation to use its nuclear arsenal to strike back. So this is actually, there's kind of 2 parts when people talk colloquially about Bluebeam. There's the Godhead, and then there's the alien invasion. So this is the big, we ought to unite. Let's see here. This way, it would put each of these nations in a state of full disarmament in front of the United Nations after the false attack. So apparently, we're just going to nuke holograms, or we're going to fake nuke. Other stuff I read said it will just be fake nukes using the holograms. The second is to make Christians believe that a major rapture with supposedly divine intervention occurred with an alleged good alien force coming to save people from a brutal satanic attack. So this would be, oh no, the reptilians are attacking, look, and then the space brother Greys show up and they like take the Christians away in there.
Okay.
And this is probably the FEMA camp part, because that's how you get rid of all the Christians. Or you get rid of
that's just your explanation when they disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, if this is an actual satanic plot, yeah, it might be their explanation for a rapture. That's right. I didn't think about that.
Because I've kind of thought for a while that's kind of how the rapture would get explained. Is aliens came and got them. They'll have some reason why they were chosen. Or maybe it's that they were bad because they were Christians and the aliens took them out. And now you can be a united world now that these people are out of the way.
That's a good point.
Those are the enemy, and that's how you make Christians the enemy.
Well, you and Sergey are on the same page.
Sounds like it. I'm very scared now.
So God comes, he tells you it's all fake and there's only one God, and then the aliens attack, and then the good aliens rapture. Okay, this is what I think is the weirdest part.
Okay.
The third part of part 4 is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. This is when like the real devil comes out to play. The waves used at the time will allow supernatural forces to travel through fiber optics.
Oh, okay.
The ones used for cable TV, electric, and phone lines, in order to penetrate everywhere on electronic equipment. Appliances will already be installed with microchips. So number one, he's talking about smart appliances. Number two, apparently whoever has contact with the demonic forces is going to let them manifest through electronic stuff, which is interesting because that is one of the things that like poltergeists and ghosts, quote unquote,
interact with electronics a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, biblically, the Antichrist is going to do all these signs and wonders to prove that he is Christ or whatever.
Right.
And it would make sense that electronics and all that are involved.
Yes. So we're going to eventually give them physical manifestation. And I find that interesting because I never thought of it this way. So like we all know, like most of the time ghosts or demons can't like physically do things to you, but they can like mess with electronics.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, they have that ability. We really have piped in fiber optics to most of our homes. We have these electromagnetic waves for our cell phones. We might be like inadvertently giving them a grasp on our plane.
Yeah.
By creating like heightened energy states that they can come to. So essentially, the goal of this one deals with global satanic ghosts or specters all around the world in order to push all of the population to drown into a wave of suicide, killing, and permanent psychological disorders. I kind of wonder if this isn't already happening just based on like how bad people's mental health is. And then after that night of 1,000 stars, I have tried to figure out what the night of 1,000 stars is for the last 2 weeks. I don't know what this reference is.
Okay.
I think it might be a revelation, like the stars falling from the sky when the sixth seal opens.
Yeah.
But that's just a hypothesis. I don't know what he's talking about when he says the night of 1,000 stars. But then after the night of 1,000 stars, or that might be the alien invasion night, humanity is going to be ready to implore any new messiah to reestablish peace everywhere at any cost, even at the cost of freedom abdication.
Ooh.
There is no bright side of this. That's the end. That's what's going to happen. That's Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, I don't know how I didn't know this as much as I've looked into, the rest of the aspects of this and thought about it and everything. I was unaware that there was a government program that's been going on went on for a really long time preparing for this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the military, and then I guess you could argue that anything you can imagine, they're going to eventually create,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just think it's the timing is weird that he came out with this around the beginning of the internet age and stuff, and then slowly it's leaked out that we've been working on this stuff. Um, so yeah, so everybody, like the title of this episode, remember it's a lie. When Muhammad shows up in the sky and tells you that it's a one world religion, be prepared for the rest of this.
Yeah. Oh. Ugh.
Yeah.
My mind is just kind of spinning right now. Like, I put a fine point on a lot of thoughts that I already had and a lot of stuff, I'd already kind of been piecing together, and now it just all kind of really fell into place in a scary way.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this many years ago, maybe around 2008, and I remember thinking, oh, that's interesting. Kind of really diving into it and looking up, like, is this technology possible, has been kind of frightening. At the very least, any potential World War III is going to be bizarre. It's not going to be guns. It's going to be all kinds of making people crazy and loud voices and melting people with lasers.
What it sounds like.
Yeah, so I've attached the notes and the show stuff for like the DARPA news and a video of the speaking plasma ball. But yeah, that's Project Bluebeam, Patrick. That's all I got, man. That seems to be most of what's available.
That's enough. That is enough information for right now.
Okay. It's a lot.
Ooh.
It's basically an entire apocalyptic scenario on one show, but
well,
thank you for listening.
Thank you for putting it together, and wow, this may be the worst you've freaked me out in this show, honestly.
Oh, that makes me feel so good to end the year like that.
Oh man, yeah, that's whew.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe, warn people about Project Bluebeam. This is really generally I ask nice, but if you don't share this with your friends and family to prepare them, then you're just a terrible person. So
I mean,
tell them you're obligated to send this show to them.
Well, thank you for putting it together, man. Ooh.
You're welcome. Well, everyone, thanks again, and I guess it feels weird to end this. There's nowhere else to go. That's it. The dude made this speech, he wrote a book, and then he got killed by the government. So, all right.
Yeah.
I hope you have a blessed New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for making this 2020 a little better for us than it could have been. And we hope that we made your 2020 a little better than it would have been without us. And we'll be back next year right on schedule. We ain't taking no break. So Come back next Wednesday for more cryptic accounts, and maybe Pat will depress me as much as I depressed him.
Oh, I don't know that I can one up this. Whew.
All right, buddy. I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.